Good morning everybody and welcome back to the Farmyard Classroom. Now again, we're starting outside. Make the most of this beautiful weather. Now we're going to talk about habitats today and have a look around the farm to see what habitats we have here. Now a habitat is where an animal lives, and that habitat will provide everything the animal needs to survive. Things like food, water and shelter. So we'll have a look and see what we can find. Now we're lucky at Bocketts Farm. We haven't had to travel far to find some lovely woodland habitat. So come with me, let's go and explore. Come on. Now as we explore the different habitats today, have a think about the animals that live in those habitats and the way in which they use that habitat and how they move around. Do they scurry or scamper? Do they crawl? Do they fly? I wonder. Let's go and find out. Who knows where I'm standing? We're at the pony ride track, well done. And we thought it would be a lovely chance to go and take a little look at the woodlands just here. So let's go and explore. Come on. Did you see me? I was well camouflaged, wasn't I? Blending in with my green dungarees. Do you remember what camouflage means? To be disguised. Now, in the woodlands here, there are lots of animals, and maybe they're pretty good at disguise as well, because I can't see them, but I can hear them. There are birds all around us in these woodlands. Now, this woodland was planted nearly 30 years ago by the family that set up Bocketts Farm. And have a look at it now. It's full of life. There are birds flying through the trees, making their nests up high. Some birds, like woodpeckers, use their beaks to make a hole in the trunk of the tree to make their nest inside the tree. Some animals live on the floor of the woodland, in the leaf litter and among the plants down there. Some of them might be mini beasts or animals like mice or shrews. There are also foxes and badgers living in these woods, and they live in their burrows and sets and dens underground. Now in each woodland there are different habitats within that woodland habitat. Under here it's very shady, it's cool, and the ground is quite damp. This is the perfect habitat for things like mini beasts and mice. They'd love to live and run around in here. But you can also see activity from other animals like the birds. Now we've got fruit trees on the farm, and if we have a look on the floor we can see lots of cherry stones where the birds have been eating the fruit and then dropping the cherry stones onto the floor. There are also nutshells. Now there's one animal that I know we've got lots of at the farm. It's got a big bushy tail and it runs up trees pretty quickly, and that's the squirrel. And they love to eat the nuts. So there's part of the nutshell. And we've also found these. Now, we've got some very large snails at the farm called the Roman snail, and they've got these large shells here which you can see are much bigger to the shells that we found next to them, and the birds would love to eat the snails from the shells as well. So lots of exciting things going on in here. Now another habitat that we have lots of at Bocketts Farm is the hedgerows. Now hedgerows are the things that grow in between the fields, and farmers use them to separate their fields. And a hedgerow can be made up of most things from grasses and flowers on the ground through to bushes and even some small trees. And lots of creatures live in those hedgerow habitats. So let's take a look and see what we can find. On the floor, there's lots of evidence of something that's digging, and that is a rabbit. Now, rabbits live in big groups underground in burrows, and there are lots of holes around me here, so I'll be careful when I'm walking. Another thing I can see on the floor here is a very big bird poo. Now, we're also very lucky at Bocketts to have some birds of prey living here in the trees naturally. We've got birds like buzzards. They're the big birds of prey that you might see circling on a hot summer's day. They take the thermals really high. Now, I've also got a nice big snail. Now, because I've picked him up, he's tucked himself up inside. I'll put him back down, leave him be. Now let's take a walk further along and see what else we can find. Hedgerows are really important for British wildlife. Now, they provide homes and habitat for 80% of British birds. They also provide homes for 50% of British mammals, things like mice and voles, and also 30% of our British butterflies. That's a lot of animals that depend on it. Now, the banks and the ditches that you find near the hedgerows as well make perfect homes for things like frogs, newts and lizards. Maybe we'll see some today. Now, grassy bottoms and field margins also provide a great habitat. Now, along here would be a wonderful place for insects to lay their larvae, which actually provide the perfect food for newborn chicks and young birds. Having a nest somewhere like this as well would also conceal or hide the nest from the predators like the foxes. Field margins also allow wild flowers to grow. Have a look down here. Now, grassy field borders like this are so important to allow British wildlife to thrive, whether that's the plants to grow and the animals to live here too. Now, at Bocketts Farm, we try and make as many grassy borders for our fields like this as possible. Now, we've just moved a little further along the hedgerow and we found this amazing fresh dug hole. Now, it could be a fox's den or a badger's set, but there's a very big hole in the ground and you can see all of this freshly dug dirt where they're maintaining their home. Now, there's also some animal poo and some feathers from a recent meal. I wonder what bird, maybe a pheasant, perhaps. Now let's go and see another habitat. You wouldn't normally associate it with Bocketts Farm, but you get a good view at the top. Come on. We made it. Here we are at the top of the farm. Now, if any of you have been on our tractor ride, you'll know that behind me there is a stunning view of London. Now, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it's quite clear today and you can see the skyscrapers. Now, London is an urban habitat. Urban simply means built up, like a town or a city. And the wildlife you find there might not be too dissimilar to that you find in the woodlands. I'm sure you'll still see some foxes looking for maybe some waste in your bins. You've got hedgehogs too, and hedgehogs have a spiny outer casing to keep them protected from the predators. You might see lots of pigeons as well. Have a look out your window or on a walk next time you're out and about. Have a look in the trees, or can you see birds flying in the sky? Now, urban habitats are extremely diverse, And that just means there's a lot to them, whether that's your back gardens, a cemetery, an industrial estate, or even a golf course. Animals and wildlife tends to find a natural home or a habitat pretty much anywhere, but we do need to look after them. Now, before we head off today, have a think about some of the other habitats that we haven't been to visit. Things we don't have at the farm, maybe like a big pond or a lake, maybe even a desert or a jungle. That's a good one. Have a think about the animals that live there and how they live there. Some of the plants and the trees that might grow that we don't have here at the farm. Now, next time you're out and about, don't forget to have a look at the wildlife around you. Have a look at the flowers on the floor. Even if you think it's a weed, it still provides that pollen and nectar that some of the insects need to survive. So until next time, boys and girls, I'll see you later. Bye everyone.